You ever wake up thinking it's going to be a quiet day, and then realize you're about to star in your own action movie? That's exactly how my morning went. The sun had just started climbing over the hills, birds were singing, and I was sipping my coffee on the porch of my farm when I noticed 3 white SUVs crawling up my driveway. Big bold letters on the side read, HOA Patrol. At first, I laughed. My farm isn't even part of their HOA. I live on county land, well outside their reach. But as they got closer, my smile faded. These guys weren't just here to talk. They had radios, flashlights, clipboards, and that look of, "We own the place," stamped on their faces. The lead guy stepped out and barked, "We have authorization to inspect your property." I set my cup down slowly. Authorization? From who? The queen of the neighborhood. He didn't answer. Instead, 2 of his men marched toward my barn and started cutting the chain on my front gate. My stomach dropped. That's when it hit me. This wasn't some idle threat. Karen, the self-proclaimed HOA queen from across the road, had actually sent her private patrol to break into my farm. I could feel my blood boiling. But before I could even take a step, I heard the screen door behind me creak open. "Everything all right out here?" It was Sheriff Dan, my old friend, and the actual county sheriff, standing there, coffee mug in hand. And judging by the look on his face, these HOA wannabe cops had just messed with the wrong ranch. Things were about to get real interesting. The moment Sheriff Dan stepped out, everything shifted. He wasn't just any local lawman. He was the kind of sheriff who didn't need to raise his voice to command a room. His presence alone made the so-called HOA Patrol freeze like deer caught in headlights. "Morning, gentlemen," he said, walking down the steps, boots crunching on gravel. "Mind explaining why you're trespassing on private property?" The lead officer cleared his throat. "Sir, we're with the Homeowners Association Patrol. We've been ordered to inspect this property for code violations." Dan raised an eyebrow. "Code violations?" He took a slow sip of coffee. "You mean HOA rules that don't apply here?" Silence. You could practically hear the wind whistling between their ears. Dan's voice hardened. "This is county land, not your subdivision. You're breaking the law by being here." The patrolmen started glancing nervously at each other. The leader tried to recover. "We were just following orders from our HOA president, ma'am. Karen Thompson." I almost laughed. Dan didn't. "Following orders doesn't excuse trespassing," he said. "You damaged property, entered a restricted area, and tried to enforce authority you don't have. That's impersonation and criminal trespass." Then Dan turned his radio on. "Dispatch, this is Sheriff Daniels. Got unauthorized private enforcers on County Road 82. Send a deputy." The HOA men went pale. One of them muttered, "Karen said we were allowed." Dan stared them down. "Karen doesn't make the law. I do." I leaned against the porch rail, watching them squirm. The sheriff smiled slightly and added, "You fellas might wanna call your boss. Tell her she's next." And just like that, the HOA Patrol's fake authority crumbled faster than their cheap clipboards. It didn't take long for Karen to show up, the self-proclaimed queen of the HOA kingdom. You could hear her Lexus before you saw it, tires kicking up dust as she sped up my driveway like she owned it. Out she stepped in her floral blouse, designer sunglasses, and a clipboard clutched like a sword. "Sheriff," she shouted, slamming her car door. "What's the meaning of this? These men are under my authority." Dan didn't even flinch. "Karen, your men are trespassing on private property. They've cut a gate, entered without consent, and claimed HOA authority where it doesn't exist." She scoffed. "This land should be part of our community. It's an eyesore." It lowers property values. I crossed my arms, smirking. Funny, Karen. My land's been here 100 years before your cookie-cutter houses were built. Her lips tightened. You think you can ignore community rules just because you live across the road? Dan interrupted, his tone calm but firm. Karen, you don't have jurisdiction past that street sign. You know it. You've been warned before. She stepped closer, pointing her clipboard like a weapon. I'll have your badge for this. You can't stop the law. Dan let out a short laugh. Ma'am, the law doesn't outrank county law. Then he dropped the hammer. And by the way, everything you just said is on my body cam. Karen froze. You recorded me. Dan smiled, tipping his hat. Sure did. And that video's already uploaded to evidence. For once, the mighty Law Queen had no words. She spun on her heel, red-faced, shouting at her patrol team to get in the car. But it was too late. The sheriff had already made one call, and Karen's empire was about to crumble. By the next morning, everyone in town had heard what happened. The footage from Sheriff Dan's body cam, showing Karen screaming about owning my farm, had already made its way through social media faster than wildfire. People couldn't stop sharing it. Comments poured in. Classic WA overreach, this sheriff's a legend, and Karen finally met her match. But while the internet was laughing, the county wasn't. The sheriff's department launched a full investigation into the WA patrol's actions. Within a week, citations and legal notices started piling up on Karen's doorstep. The county attorney hit her wall with charges for trespassing, property damage, and impersonating law enforcement. Their private patrol company got its license suspended. And the cherry on top, the county posted a public statement declaring that no WA had any authority outside its legally defined boundaries. That one sentence destroyed Karen's little empire. Her board members started resigning left and right. Homeowners who once feared her began filing complaints, revealing years of shady fines and harassment. The HOA's reputation tanked overnight. Meanwhile, I just kept to my routine, fixing fences, feeding horses, and drinking my coffee in peace. Sheriff Dan stopped by every few days to check in, usually laughing about Karen's latest meltdown. You could sue her for all this, you know, he told me one morning. I grinned. Nah, Dan. Watching her empire collapse is payment enough. By the end of the month, the county ordered the WA to suspend operations pending review. Karen tried to rally her supporters online, but nobody cared anymore. The woman who once acted like she ruled the world had just been dethroned by her own arrogance. A few quiet weeks passed after the chaos. The dust settled, literally and figuratively. My ranch was peaceful again. No more WA patrols, no more threats, no more nonsense. Then one evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the fields gold, I heard a car pull up. It was Karen. But she wasn't the same woman who had stormed up my driveway weeks ago, yelling about rules and community standards. She looked tired, shoulders slumped, eyes softer, like the fire in her had finally burned out. She stepped out slowly, holding no clipboard this time, just a look of regret. I came to apologize, she said quietly. I stayed silent, letting her speak. I thought I was protecting the neighborhood, she admitted. But I turned into someone I didn't even recognize. I lost everything. The WA board, my friends, even my peace of mind. For a second, I almost felt bad for her. Power had consumed her, and losing it had broken her. I nodded. Takes a strong person to admit that. She smiled faintly, then turned back to her car. I'm moving away. I just wanted to say sorry before I go. And just like that, The HOA Queen drove off into the sunset, for good. A month later, Sheriff Dan came by with news that made me laugh out loud. "You won't believe this," he said. "Karen's old HOA land, it's up for sale. The whole development." I raised an eyebrow. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" Dan grinned. "Oh, I know you are. So I bought it. Every inch of it. Now that land is part of my ranch. Open, peaceful, and forever free from HOA rule. And whenever I ride past where Karen's office used to be, I just smile and whisper, 'Long live freedom.'"